And we are live in Building Retail with the man of the hour, John Swanson. John, you've been in the news a lot lately with the Granite games, everything else. And I know that this call is long overdue. So I'm excited to have you on and open this can of worms and see where this conversation goes.
Yeah, first and foremost, thanks for having me. And it's always a pleasure to get talk for a little bit.
Right on. So everybody's curious about where the Granite games is going. So we're going to push that off to the wayside. I want to go back a little bit in our history as far as how we started talking. What was it, 4 or 5 years ago? We first had an introduction call. Like, think about where you were in your career, where I was in our career. Like, it's amazing to see where this journey has kind of taken us.
Yeah, it's, we're both very, I'll call it not stubborn, but very belief strong and vision strong individuals. So it's cool to see you stay the course on your vision. And you're definitely a brand that I brag about that has figured out, like, here's the path we're going to take. And you believed in that path and you stayed on that path. You guys are doing some wonderful things for affiliates and helping them in a radically different way than any other supplement company has helped them with the avenue of education first, which is what's going to build loyalty and, that culture.
Well, thanks, man. That means a lot, you saying that. Our relationship up until really about a year or so ago kind of pivoted around the Granite games. We talked about different levels of sponsorship, different levels of involvement with the Granite games. And I think it got to the point to where about once a week, Val would actually say, so did you and John talk? Because about once a week, about 4:30, I'd be heading home at the same time. And you would be heading home at the same time to pick up our kids or do whatever life was telling us to do. And we would just talk and jam about, hey, we're having this problem with Driven Nutrition, or we're having this problem with the Granite games. And just overall from a marketing idea and just life in general, it was really kind of fun to develop that friendship and see going from the Granite games of that business side to these are just two dudes that are normal in life talking and with no agenda other than I still look back at the level of candidness that we had together. And I'm like, man, I don't ever talk to anybody like that. So that was really a lot of fun. I think I asked you one time, I just opened up and said, how do you talk so well on camera? And it was one of those times, like, you and I are both very competitive by nature. And I was pissed because you're so good at turning on the camera and turning it on and just like talking, just sharing your story and what you've got going on. And it really wasn't until then that I realized, everybody knows you from the Granite games. Everybody knows you from Friday Night Lights. And it wasn't until we had that conversation that you started telling me about your consulting business, Factory Foraged, and what you do, and Chris Thorndike, what you guys do as far as helping gems. So can you kind of go back to that conversation a little bit? Because there was a frustrating time, I believe, that you shared with me about where you guys were and then how you broke that loose.
Yeah. The first I'll say is that, like any skill, naturally you're going to suck at it. The problem is a lot of us don't remember being bad at something because it was in our childhood. I was fortunate enough to play hockey at a high level. There was a point at which I could not skate. Think about even like speaking English in the language, right? Or writing. So one of the hardest things with business owners is we have to get over ourselves a little bit because we have this, like, if we're not good at it, we're not going to do it because it's uncomfortable. And so what I'd like everybody to know is that there are days that nobody knows about back in 2012 and 13 when I would try to shoot a 3-minute video teaser for the Granite games. And it took us 6 hours to get it right. Like painstaking. Like I could see people's faces melting, like their energy was just gone. They had left the building because I would mess up a word or get it wrong or forget my lines. Like I was horrible on camera. And so what I want people to understand is it's not that I'm good on camera now. It's just, I just spent a lot of time on camera. The truth is I've been on camera more than a lot of people. So it's natural to be better at it because I've just done more work. And so if I can give people a little bit of advice is whatever the craft that you're trying to hone, you look at somebody and you're like, but they got it figured out. Go allocate the hours in the practice and the time under tension that they've had. Like you want a 400-pound squat and you're only able to squat the barbell. Well, you just don't do it overnight. If people would apply the same way that they get stronger to business, they would have way better businesses. But they get frustrated and they look at somebody else that's already there, and then they're like, well, I can't do that. It's not my thing. And it's like, well, it can be your thing. You just got to practice. And so what I would like to tell you, and what I think I told you that day, is like, dude, I used to suck at camera. And the thing that caused me to get over it was, one, being on camera more. The thing that happened with Factory Forage is we have a private group very similar to this one, where all we try to do is inspire gym owners to realize what a dream business should and can look like. Things like actually going home and picking up your daughter at 4:30, right? I talk about my journey a lot of when I had my first daughter, Sloan was born. Basically, it was a non-negotiable. Like, I was willing to shut shop down. And if you know my history, you would understand that like being a good dad is critical to me because of how my childhood was. And so it was important for me to be that person. It was important for me to build my company. And that's also important for me to help other gym owners live that same life. We had no momentum in our group, like none, no interaction, no engagement. I got frustrated. I'm like, why aren't these people wanting to learn? Like, I have a successful gym. I have a successful brand. I consult companies that are way bigger outside the space. Like, you know, I kind of had like this internal, like, why don't people want to learn? Why aren't they more excited? Right. And what I realized is I wasn't giving enough. I wasn't vocal enough. I wasn't, you know, seen enough. And so I said, fine, I'm just going to go live for 30 days and I'm going to create momentum myself. And it's very similar to how I launched my gym. I just went for 30 days as hard as I could. Like, there was days where I was doing 3 and 4 lives, just like, hey guys, I had an idea. This is something we're doing in our gym. You guys should totally check this out. And it was just give. Right. And then it was crazy because all of a sudden on day 30, and not exactly day 30, but also the momentum happened. You know, I remember telling Chris, my business partner, I'm like, I think our group's dead. There's nobody in it anymore. Like, it's a bunch of ghosts. And we were able to resurrect it with manufactured energy. And so that's how I got really good on camera. It was either do it and get to live the life you want to live, or don't do it and play the blame game that these people don't want to learn.
That's interesting. So, and I think that's what you told me then was, Jason, it's just reps, man. Just shut up and do it and get over yourself. I think that was the short part of the conversation, which I always appreciate, the bluntness, and it's helped. I've eliminated a few ums here and there. I still insert them, as well as so's. And I'm working on those with reps. So talk about your group, the Factory Forage. Before this, so on that same call, I want everybody to know the candidness that John and I had going back and forth. John helped me with different things, and we had discussions about different things that I was able to bring a different perspective. And I told him, he was the first person I told about to set a goal to go to 5 events. So to get out and actually talk. And he said, well, dude, like Chris and I were going out to Orlando for Funnel Hackers, right? Is that where it was? Okay. And I had no events planned. So I told him, cool. And no agenda, nothing going on. I got home and told Val, I said, all right, this is where I'd like to go. Do we have anything going on with family? Our calendar was clear for that weekend, and we cleared it. And I went. I think it took us about a day and a half before we were finally able to meet up there. But as serendipity and the universe kind of does, it took me in different directions, and we ended up connecting there. And you, me, and Chris had some great conversations, and I still look back on those fondly. But the thing I want everybody to understand, just like you said with the giving inside of the group, you did so much of that on our calls, as well as just reaching out. Like, dude, if you're wanting to meet people, come out and meet me and Chris. There's no agenda behind this. Let's just hang out and get to know each other a little bit. So that was, I genuinely appreciate that invitation, because that was the catalyst which kind of gave me permission to step out of my comfort zone a little bit and start going and meeting more people inside of the space, which I haven't done for 6 or 7 years. So thank you sincerely for that.
You're welcome.
I'm grateful.
And think about, like, on that trip, the people that you got to meet just because you were there, people I didn't know, I got to meet them as well. And like, really great connections. One of the best skill sets that I would call like hyper technicians that get it at a very high level, like yourself, is they're really good at being in the weeds. It's also very comfortable to stay in the weeds and just stay in like the, I almost like a website coder, like you stay inside the code. And sometimes you have to zoom out, and it's hard for you guys because you're comfortable in the code. I'm not comfortable in the code. I'm comfortable in, I like the super deep intellectual talks, but I also like to be surrounded by people and I like to people watch. I learn a lot by people watching. And so if I could give anybody ever advice, is like, if you are truly that kind of technical savant like Jason is, you got to find somebody that's going to pull you up, 5 levels, and it's going to feel super uncomfortable, but it's going to be so important for your long-term development and your relationships. And that meeting down in Florida, think about how it changed how you guys market, how it changed some of the conversations, your connections. We talk about the Rolodex is the value in which you provide to the world. It's not how much money's in your bank account, but it's who you can call on to help you, right? And you were able to make some of those connections that weekend, as was I. And that doesn't happen if we stay in the comfort zone of the tasks that we're really good at. So getting uncomfortable is essential for the evolution of you as the individual and your business.
Right. I just wanted to get that out there and give an uncomfortable level of gratitude back towards John, because I really appreciate it. So let's dive into Factory Forage. So during that trip is when I started finding out some of the services. As long as you guys have been at it, like staying in the weeds, like that's a good representation. I've just kind of kept my head low. I've done what I do, and I didn't know all of the services that different people inside this space. And I was blown away at what you and Chris are doing with Factory Forged. So I'd like to kind of peel that back a little bit, because I know that the gyms inside of your group, the ones that you mentor and you work with, they know what it is that you guys, the level of service you guys bring. You invited me out to Minnesota. I sat in on that getaway, the training that you did for the week, and I was really impressed with everything that you bring in terms of the SOPs, the processes, the sales process, and you have something called the enrollment machine. So you have a lot of different categories. So let's dive into those and talk about what, from a priority standpoint, what would you like to point out first with what you do with gyms?
I think the first and the most important part is for a business owner to understand, do they have a cash flow problem, which 90% of gym owners have, is a cash flow, right? You guys are also helping solve that with the education. I attribute cash flow to oxygen. So they're not charging enough, or they don't have enough members, but often it can be a cash flow problem. So what we've done is we built a system where we attack just like we would with an individual that is in danger. So number one, can they breathe? Yes, check it. So do they have cash flow? Yep. And then a lot of times what business owners are after is, once you have cash coming in, cash stays because of your ability to change people's lives, right? So that's dependent on having world-class service, creating raving fans. But me personally, I built a gym off of myself and one other employee where we were doing $60,000 a month. We had 300 members, and it was me and one other person. So I had cash and I had members and I had world-class service. What I lacked was a team. And like I said, one of the tipping points in my life. And so Factory Forge is a mirror of my journey. I was able to get cash. I was able to breathe. I was able to buy all this gear, but I only had one real employee. It was my wife. And then I had one assistant as well. But so when we got pregnant, two things happened. I lost my wife, and I also said, I need to go home. I want to be a dad. And so what I realized was I need systems, org chart, structure, and all that stuff. And so what Factory Forge ultimately is trying to do at the highest level is to help you run a profitable business, but also let you be a family man or a woman, right? Like to be home, to tuck your daughter into bed, to be able to coach youth sports. Tomorrow I'm getting to go on a retreat with my daughter. Like I have a gym, but I don't have to run the day-to-day ops now because of my ability to implement SOPs, build out a team. So we try to do, I don't want to say it's a little of everything, but what we ultimately try to do is take a gym owner and put them on a track and say, first, we're going to teach you how to onboard your perfect clients. Next, we're going to teach you how to create world-class service so you deliver the result they want. From there, your gym is going to start to fill. But now what you're going to lose is time. Your time's being taken away, but now you have cash. Right. Initially, you're time heavy, cash poor. We flip that. Now you're cash heavy, time poor. Now we're going to go out and teach you how to hire, how to train, and how to manage. So all the balls, you're not juggling them all. They're not all falling down. You're not spinning all the plates. And now you have a team who can make decisions. And it's really what we did with the Granite Games, right? Like we have a team of 700 individuals that work on the Granite Games in a season, which is crazy. And that only happens through proper org charts, delegation, clarity, SOPs. So that's what Factory Forge is doing. And it's been cool because I've seen a gym go from $7,000 having to call his mom to take a loan out to having 2 locations. He's getting to sit in a seat that he loves. He's doing the thing he loves, and he can still be, a good husband. He can be a family man. It's just been so fun to watch people build a dream business, but not sacrifice their life. I feel like a lot of gym owners right now, the thing that nobody wants to talk about is, yeah, you're changing people's lives, but your life is kind of being lost in the process. They're not fit. They're not working out anymore. They're not able to be home at night. They're not doing a lot of things that you and I are actually drawn to each other. And I think why we have such a good relationship is our value system. And that's not okay.
Right. So as you're setting up systems, org charts, what do you say to somebody that says, I have 3 employees, I don't need systems or org charts?
So there's a test that we'll put business owners through. And one of the things we'll do is we'll do a health score of their company. And a lot of people, if you ask them like, hey, rate your business right now, how are you doing? And they'll be like, my business is great. We're an A, or they'll say a B. And we'll give them a test. And we did this when you were out there. And the average score, and these are people that we weren't even working with, their average score of an affiliate was 20%. So imagine like if you're a student, 20% health rate. So what I'll say is, okay, if you're gone on vacation for, say, 3 weeks, there's somebody that's completely running all the signups and knows how to make decisions. Now, what you find in the bulk of gyms is that, yeah, there's people doing a job, but they don't have the freedom to make a decision. They can't, they're just doing the task. It's like pushing the button, just keep hitting enter. They're mindless. And what we want to do is we want to elevate them so that way we can delegate the priorities. So they actually take responsibility for the actions. A really good book is Turn the Ship Around, which is written by a Navy captain who took the worst ship in the fleet over a 2-year process, turned it into be the #1 ship. And he talks a lot about you have to employ your team. Instead of saying, Captain, can I do this? It's, Captain, I intend to turn the ship 10 degrees. And it's just that mindset of like, I was in a Granite Games meeting today, and I have my marketing director, my sales director, operations, director of affiliates, and they're like, we're doing this. I'm going to do this. And it's like they're making decisions. The bulk of gyms out there, the one person makes all the decisions and then says, go. Well, how do you take a vacation without this? You can't take vacation without your phone. Like, yeah, you might not be in the gym, but you're constantly like everything's coming through you, which is why they're going to get stuck at a certain level.
So building those systems out would you say it's easier or harder when you're small or when you're big? Or here's a better question. Can you get big without systems?
Yeah.
Without stuff just flying off into the ether?
You can get big. I would say I'm proof of concept that I got big without systems. And then I opened a second gym, and it was the biggest mistake I ever made. My quick story is we almost went bankrupt the first 90 days. And so I built the enrollment machine. How do I fill my gym with my perfect clients? And I filled our gym in 18 months. We went from doing like $3,000 a month to 68,000 was the run rate. And it was bliss, right? We had an amazing gym, and I was like, okay, our gym's full. We can't help any more people in this location. We should open a second gym. Because I was so all about, let's change people's lives. Let's just keep helping more people. And I opened a second gym, and I pulled one of my employees out, and I was like, you're going to run this gym. And I told this other person, you're going to do this. And all I did was take 2 coaches and basically split them up. And the gym was opened, and it never got above like 80 members. And what I realized is I was lacking all the actual systems, and the gym was breaking even. This was the crazy part. Our gym was breaking even, and I shut it down. And what people ask me to this day, like, why would you shut a gym down that's breaking even? I just knew that if I was going to build the operations that I needed to do, I needed to condense. I needed to like get the huddle up back at home base, build out all the systems so I could have the freedom I wanted. Whereas it was manageable to do it the other way, but I felt like we could do it with the speed and the accuracy to train our staff so I could have my freedom. So yeah, when people say I'm going to open a second gym, I love to ask them about their org chart, how they hire, how they train. And what you can find is that a lot of people open that second gym and their other gym is being held together by them. They underestimate the value of their glue that they provide. They are the person that kind of fixes everything. The problem is you can't be in 2 locations. They're the it factor, and they undervalue that. With proper systems, now you can have multiple locations. We have clients that have 4 locations, 5 locations, and they run flawless. But it's through the systems and how they make decision that's been allowed to happen. The Granite games is the opposite, right? Like, and that only can happen because of our systems and procedures and how we do things. So we shut a gym down because it was breaking even, and it would slow us in the process of actually getting our systems built.
That's a term we use here quite a bit. Sometimes we have to go slow to go fast. Build it out a little bit. Then that way, I don't want a wheel spinning really fast if everything isn't bolted on properly, and because otherwise shit's just going to start flying off in all kinds of directions, and then you play catch up. One of the things that hit me about what you said is, somebody being the it factor. Do you find that gym owners struggle with the it factor mentality? And a blunt way of saying that is ego. And even though we don't see a ton of it in our space, but there is some of that at play, that people like having the decisions roll around them, not so much from the standpoint of that's the most efficient way to do it, but that's the way it's always been done, or that's the way that they decided to do it, with no basis points of this is the best way to do it.
I think two things happen. Number one, gym owners get to a level of success, but there's a glass ceiling that they won't be able to break through without a team, and they undervalue how important they are in that messy situation, right? So they become successful because they can will it to happen because they're really good at one thing. And I've been able to see this now in companies that are doing $10 million, $20 million. They have one person on that team. It's like Tom Brady. It doesn't matter. Aaron Rodgers, same situation. It doesn't matter who you surround them. They're still kind of contenders, right? But ultimately, are they going to win championships? Maybe, maybe not. And so in business, I think gym owners undervalue how much they will things to happen. And you can will yourself through a lot of messy situations and constantly keep fixing it. What happens now is they will it to happen, and then they eventually get it to a certain level, and let's call it 15 to 25,000, right? And that's where a lot of gyms actually get stuck. And what happens now is you can't will it past that anymore. Just you can't outwork your competition at that point. You can't outwork somebody when you're already working 60 to 80 hours. So if working more isn't the answer, then you have to change your mindset. And so what happens now is once they've willed it to that glass ceiling, they hover there. And then what happens is they get tired. So now the gym goes from 25,000 and it actually dips back down to around 19 to 18,000. Like these numbers are fairly accurate. And what happens is they can't figure out why. Why is the gym shrinking? It's because they're becoming tired, becoming exhausted, right? They're starting to get burnt out. And so when they start to get burnt out, here's the next issue, is that if they would have hit that glass ceiling, realized they were stuck right then and there, they would have had the energy and the bandwidth to implement the strategic solves. But they don't. They keep trying to solve the same equation the same way that got them there, which won't. You can't break through a glass ceiling with the same way you've done it before. You have to evolve. And so they keep doing it the same way. They get stuck and then they get tired. When they get burnt out, here's the biggest mistake. They get a case of I won't say it, but they get a case of blank it. And then they just bring anybody on that's willing to take and give them back time because they're so burnt out. They just want their time back. And so they'll hire people that don't, what we'll use as GWC. They don't get it, they don't want it, and they don't have the capacity to do the job. So they get somebody in a role. That person also ultimately isn't trained up. They truly don't understand the job. They don't truly want the job. And they don't truly have the capacity to do the job at the level to take it away from the current owner. And so that person does a poor job. The owner eventually has to step back in, probably let that person go, and now they resume the duties. And this happens once, twice, a third time. And eventually what they'll say is, well, just nobody else can do it. I'm the only one.
It doesn't work. Right.
Yeah. And so it's this scenario, and I've seen it play out with 100 plus gyms where it's the same thing that happens over and over again. And it would have been solved by simply having an org chart, having core values, hiring and training your team. So you can truly, we call it, you need to elevate somebody's knowledge up so you can delegate the tasks. And what happens a lot of times, we delegate and then we try to elevate. And we got to do it the opposite way. You got to elevate their knowledge up before we hand them over the workload. To this day, if you brought me into Driven, you could elevate me up and then delegate the task to me. But if you gave me the task, they would drown me. It doesn't matter how smart they are. And so it's that evolution period. And what's causing a short evolution is because they're so tired. They're so burnt out. They're just looking for anybody to throw them a life raft so they can get their time back.
Yeah, they're looking for a heartbeat. It's a short-term pleasure, long-term pain situation. You hire somebody in that position that's the wrong fit, even though you hope that they may work out. You know, I heard one time you can hope in one hand and crap in the other and see which one fills up faster. That's normally how it works out. If you just shotgun a new employee and hope that they're the right fit, it usually isn't the case unless you just get lucky. And then, you know, I don't know that most people think depending on being lucky is a sound business practice.
The other thing that
a way to support their family.
The other thing that happens too is that say they do have 2 or 3 employees, right? And then they're like, all right, the gym is growing. We need a manager, or we need somebody to do social, and they just pluck out their best player. And the analogy I always use is I'm like, stop taking your star quarterback and making him a coach, and then wondering why your team can't put up points anymore. Like every time you need to add somebody to your org chart, you need to have job duties written out, and you need to completely go through a brand new hiring process. And rather than, you know, one of the things that I believe in personally is a flat hierarchy. Stop thinking of moving people up the ladder. Instead of thinking of it as filling people in on your roster. Just because somebody can crush it as a quarterback doesn't mean they can play defense. And so take your hierarchy and flatten it, and now fill for the role of what it requires for that person to be successful. What do they need to do to get the job? How do they need to want it? And what is the capacity at which they need to execute the goals? And when we change that mentality in the organizational structure, people stop thinking of going up as a good thing. You get a lot of your star coaches in management roles, give them 1 year and they're out. They don't want to manage people. They want to coach. That's what they love, changing lives. So we have to let them understand they're doing the thing they love. We also have to pay them to be able to make that a long-term career. Getting paid 20 or 30,000 isn't going to cut it, right? Like you and I wouldn't do a long-term coaching job for 20 or 30,000. You can't, and it's simple. You just can't take care of your family. It's not that we wouldn't live off the money, but it's like when I have a daughter or son. So if we're going to have a coach, we need them making $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. Well, a lot of owners, that's more money than they make. Well, this goes all the way back to the cash problem. You have a cash problem. Let's go back. What does the membership pricing need to look like? Are we attracting enough of the perfect clients that get the dream results? We can have the testimonials that get that wheel spinning in the right speed and the right cadence. So now we have an extra 20,000. Well, if you have an extra 10 to 20,000, you can hire really good people and they'll stay. We have not lost an employee it's something like 4 years because they weren't like we just had an employee move to San Diego. Other than that, I don't have any coaches turnaround at all because they're making more money here than they could at a university or any other CrossFit gym in the entire state or 5-state area. If you pay somebody really well and you actually love them as an individual and help them reach their goals in life, they won't leave. They're going to be loyal to you.
And what does that do in terms of, you go back to freedom, to family? How much easier can you explain to everybody how much easier that makes running a gym? Like how do you concisely say, like, holy crap, guys, this is the golden ticket? Is it as you're sitting there describing it, I'm like, man, if you've got a solid team, that's 80% or 90% of businesses' problems.
Yeah, I mean, you look at study championship winning teams, they're veterans, they're not rookies, right? The playoffs is the second season. And I'm not trying to win the month of April. I'm trying to win the year. I'm trying to win the season. And for us to be in business, going on 9 years now in St. Cloud, Minnesota, with an average household income of $42,000, and we're able to charge $300 a member and have 300 plus members. The only way we do that is you have to have good marketing, but really, how do you keep people happy is through world-class service. Well, the only way you keep them happy through world-class service is have veterans that understand the playbook and can keep running the play and adapt it and scale it up. You have a bunch of rookies, you have coaches turnover, your business is going to be a revolving door on the back end, and that plate will spin way too fast. Yeah, so to me, I always say, like, overpay your staff. And people are like, they don't understand it. I'm like, but I'm playing the long game. I don't want my staff to leave ever. I want them to get paid so well they can do this job for the rest of their life. And that goes in two forms: pay and then also lifestyle. So understanding, like, if it's a morning coach, how can you get them out of the gym 1 day a week and let them sleep in? It's like the little things that really matter too for the health of your company. And again, as much as I love talking about this, the truth is 90% of gyms can't do the stuff I'm talking about today because they don't have the cash to do it. So then it goes back and say, well, John, how do you get somebody to sign up for $1,000 to get started? Or how are you able to enroll 30 people in a month if you have no members? And that's what we're solving with the enroll machine. You have to solve your cash flow issue. If you can't get members paying you the highest market price, and we're the highest membership in all the state of Minnesota, in one of the cheapest areas to live. So it's never a money issue, because here's why. People all own iPhones. This is $1,000 right here, right? I guarantee the people listening today, your coaching has a greater positive impact in somebody's life than an iPhone would. And it's a skill of being able to have a conversation with somebody, get them to see why they need your coaching and where they want to go. And then, positively impact their life so that they tell their friends. It's the chicken or the egg. Yeah, you got to build a world-class team, but if you don't have the cash to do it, you either have to take out a loan or you have to self-fund it through your new members.
Right. And I think that's why I'm so impressed with what you and Chris do with Factory Forage is you not only have lead generation, which is kind of the buzzword of late, but you have systems on the back end of not only how do you manage the new employees, how do you manage the new members that are coming in, and how do you play that long game instead of just a flash in the pan. Here's 100 members. Good luck to you. I mean, that's almost as bad as not having the 100 members in a lot of cases.
Yeah, because a lot of times in a city, you'll burn through them and you can't get them back. Think of it as a negative relationship. We've all had that girlfriend or boyfriend where it didn't end well. Well, you're never going to go back and date them again. And that's the other side, is like a lot of people will use services out there. They'll boost their members up and then they'll lose them in 30 days or 45 days. Well, you're never going to get them back because of the experience they had. Experiences get buried in the brain and they're never forgotten. It's why I'm hypercritical about the on-site athlete experience. Like the littlest things matter because that will change whether or not they want to participate next year. Same thing with the gym. And so you have to be able to get people in your door, but then it's through the mastery of business. And the truth is, a lot of people, of the 15,000 own a CrossFit gym today, Jason, the truth is they're not business owners. They weren't a business owner initially. They didn't come in as an entrepreneur. They came in as a coach who wants to serve and change people's lives. Right. And if they truly want to do that, they have to master the skills of business. They need to be a marketer. They need to know how to hire the best marketer. It doesn't need they need to be the best at sales. They need to hire the best at sales. It doesn't they don't have to be the best coach. They have to build a team of coaches. And you see the most successful gyms, what they've done is they've hired the experts. They've brought the right people in. They've built the right team. But somewhere along the line, they had to get the cash flow to do that.
I love what you guys do. Is there anything, before we wrap up, is there anything that we missed, that we glossed over? One thing that you said so clearly, what you know got you where you are today. That knowledge can't get you to where you're going to go tomorrow. And at some point, everybody needs a coach. If you have a member that's getting pissed off and frustrated because they can't get muscle ups, at some point you're going to come along and be like, hey, if you're interested, we're doing a muscle up club, it's X number of dollars. And then you're going to be able to provide that member the knowledge they need to reach their goal, whether it's a muscle up or something else. And as coaches and as business owners and entrepreneurs and gym owners, that knowledge, you have to progress to the next step. And sometimes it's more affordable to do it fast than it is to try to go through and read all of the books that John Swanson read, go through and read and watch all of the videos that John Swanson listened to, but you don't have John Swanson's critical knowledge and Chris Thorndike's critical knowledge of how do you execute, how do you concisely do it, how do you do it today, and in 30 days have an actionable plan, or whether it's 30 days or 120 days. That's where the value in my mind comes in of working with a company like yours, is you're able to take that condensed knowledge and convert it into their atmosphere in a way that they can take action on it almost immediately. Is there anything that we missed on our conversations that you just want to flesh out?
I'll tell you my biggest lesson I just learned. I think you'll appreciate this. So Chris and I had an opportunity to join a coaching group. And at the time, it was the same fear that gym owners have, right? It was expensive. And we waited 3 years and we just joined the group. We just got back from it. And somebody asked me, like, why would you pay that amount of money, right? So they see, and this is the same thing I did then. We didn't have the money. Why would I pay that kind of money? And I think it was like $50,000 to join the group, right? And it's for 2 days, just 2 days to be in this room to be coached by this one individual. 50 grand, a lot of money. That's a lot of money to anybody.
Right.
Doesn't matter where you're at in business. $50,000 is a car, and a nice one. And I look at it to this day. When we didn't join back in 2014, it cost us over $40 million because what the mistakes we made and where our business should be at. And when I did my onboarding call with this individual, they were asking me all these questions. I'm like, I'm all in. You don't need to sell me. I'm like, this thing's already more expensive than it ever could have been. And it's not what I'm going to pay you. It's what I lost. And so
Right.
the thing I want to remind people is that if you're climbing Mount Everest, number one, understand that there's no definitive date of when you have to be at the summit. That's really important because a lot of people feel like failures because they have this like set date in mind of when they have to be there. You know, I think I just posted the other day, I've been in business now for 19 years. And I just finally feel like I understand what the heck I'm doing, like in business after 19 years. It's insane. You know, and I think I've built now like 5 companies and just trying to find my stride of like, what is it I'm great at and all these things. So number one, take out the date of like where you have to be, when you have to be there. It's great to have goals, but what happens is a lot of people, they get frustrated. And when they get frustrated, they all of a sudden start to feel like a failure. And then they stop and they quit. And it's like, but did you get better than yesterday? And if that's your only measuring stick, great. The next one is don't measure getting coached by somebody. And I'm speaking for all the coaches you could work with. Don't measure the cost of working with a coach. You have to understand the expense of not working with that coach. What is the expense of losing one of your best employees? What is the expense of not getting those 50 people in to change their lives? What's the expense of them going out and getting diabetes or dying from a heart attack because you didn't possess the knowledge to change their life? And so what happens is when you do a cost versus value benefit analysis, we're not using all the inputs. We're just looking at it and saying, oh, it's, $3,000 to work with, coach A, and it's $2,000 to work with coach B. And that was the biggest lesson I've learned along my journey of recent was coaching is going to eliminate mistakes. It's going to be by somebody that's already lived that path. Go hire somebody that possesses the skills and the knowledge and has already been doing it and has done it several times. And stop thinking about like what the cost is and think about what the cost is if you don't do it. What's the cost of not working with a relationship coach? Divorce. What's the negative impact that has on your children, right? Like, and these are all the things as like a masculine male. I'm like, I don't need that. I don't need to, we spent the weekend. I'm like, I want my wife and I to have that because the biggest benefit of that could be that we have the strongest bond in the world. The cost of not hiring them and paying them, the couple grand it costs is divorce. It's the impact it would have on my daughter and then how it would impact her marriage and my son and so on and so forth. And so it's zooming out and understanding the journey and what really matters and the cost versus benefit analysis. And what you'll find is, paying a coach $500 or $2,000 is a very small input. It's no different than the CrossFit gym. And I would say that same advice and what I just told everybody can be applied in your sales process. And that's how we charge $1,000. What is the cost of you not living the life of your dreams? And if you have a set plan to move somebody along, it's very easy to get them to say, I want you to coach me. Awesome. Here's what it costs to get started. It's $1,000. Okay. So that is the biggest lesson I've learned of late. And it was a very expensive lesson. It was a heartbreaking lesson because I let my family down because I didn't possess the knowledge at that time to make the right decision. And ultimately, my family would be in a different place. My business would be in a different place. And the people that I serve would also be in a different place. So I look at the cost as not only $40 million I lost of where our business could have been, but also all the people I let down.
No, I get it. I'm guessing we're wired a lot the same way. I'm guessing in 2 or 3 years, we'll probably have a very similar conversation to where we look back and be like, I'm pissed I didn't do that 2 or 3 years ago for those same reasons. Just to be clear, you have openings inside of Factory Forge. If I share the link out, you'll be able to take on new clients.
Yeah. So the way we do it and the way we also coach our gyms is everybody applies. And then through an application, we will make sure that they're the right fit for us. And so one of the things that we teach actually in the gym space is don't take everybody on. We only want to work with the perfect people who are ready to get the exact result that we deliver. right? Because we want to ensure that it's not about accepting the client's money. It's ensuring the delivery of the end result you're promising. And we do the same thing in the gym. That's why we're able to get so many before and after. It's why we're able to get so many referrals. I know you do the same thing, right? Driven Nutrition is to date the only supplement company that does an application. And we do it that way because we don't want to let the client down. We want to make sure they're ready. And if they're not ready, we'll let them know that, thank you for your interest, but it's not about taking your money. It's about making sure we can change your life. I've coached people that are in our system now for over 6 years, and they don't want to go anywhere because we made sure they're right for us at the right time. So the first thing we do is we always do an application, and we also don't sell you into one specific thing. We actually do a deep dive in your business. Where are you at? Where are you trying to go? What are the things holding you back? What are the things you need to change? And then from there, we make a recommendation very similar to like a doctor would. Like, okay, based off of your inputs and where you want to be in a year from now, here's what we feel like you need to start working on. And we'll tell them flat out, do you want us to help you? A lot of times these calls, we don't try to sell them, but it's like, wow, that was the best business advice I could have ever had. And so we're not trying to sell you on the 1 hour consult. We're trying to serve you and give you a clear-cut path of where you need to go so you can climb up your own Everest, so you can reach your summit. We may or may not be with on that journey, but we want the clarity of where you need to go so you can stop guessing.
I love it. I love what you guys are doing. Well, is there anything you want to add? We're going to be turning this into a podcast. This was originally recorded in our Building Retail Facebook group. We'll share the intro call link. So thank you for letting us share that up. Is there anything that you want to add? Where can people find you before we wrap it up?
Yeah, you can find us on Facebook at Factory Forage. And then we have a private Facebook group similar to Jason's, and it's called The Secret to Filling Your Gym with the Perfect Clients. And that group is 100% there to serve and empower gym owners to learn what a dream gym should look like, what it should be like to go home at night, to leave your work, right? This is a conversation you and I shared the other day, how to leave your work at home, leave your work at work. And the key, and I want to empower every gym owner to know, there's people inside your gym that you don't enjoy coaching. You're ultimately responsible because you let them in. And when you take that power and you realize that you are the gatekeeper of your business, and it's not you trying to get people in your gym, but it's making sure you're the filtering system to only let the right people in. And when you have that type of mindset, it's amazing how your gym fills, and it actually kind of fills overnight, but it fills with the perfect clients that you love showing up and serving. This is about serving people. It's about changing people's lives. And our private group is kind of the first step. So they have to request access. You have to be a gym owner. And the secrets to filling your gym with the perfect clients and understanding that we're not trying to get people in the gym, but instead we're trying to change people's lives by serving the people that are ready.
I love it. We'll share that group up. One last question. It's on everybody's minds. You've been talking about the Granite games. You've been talking about different locations and everything else. So I'm going to ask the one question that everybody on the planet is probably thinking right now. I know I am. It's forward looking. John Swanson, where are you going to eat tonight?
Where am I going to eat tonight? So one of the cool things that Jessica and I do is Monday through Friday, we actually cook at home. We try to have as many family dinners as we can. Again, you know my history, right? I moved out of my house at 14, had a really rough upbringing. And so we have a 3-year-old boy, Edison, and we have a 4-year-old girl, Sloan. And so for us, it's very important. And again, this is where Factory Forage came from. It's very important that I'm a father above all things, actually a husband first and a father. And so Monday through Friday, you can find me on my deck, normally on Instagram, sending you text messages of what I'm grilling. But yeah.
Side grill.
Yeah, so we pretty much grill out or cook at home Monday through Friday. It's very important that we have family meals. It's very important that we have structure for the children. Yeah, so we don't eat out unless it's normally Saturday. And Saturday, I'm going to the Justin Timberlake concert with my wife, little date day.
Excellent.
So that we're going to meet up with some gym owners, and I'm sure we'll get to eat out that day. So it'll be home tonight. Probably some steak or chicken. I'll send you some photos.
Deal. And I promise not to ask you any questions about the Granite games, because I could almost feel a universal, oh, he didn't ask.
Yeah, it's I'm looking at my whiteboard behind me right now of all the issues we have with the Granite games, all the stuff we got to fix. We had a 90-minute scheduled meeting today, and obviously 2019 is going to be an interesting year with CrossFit not truly changing over to their new format, but us having to try to fit their format. Yeah, I would call 19 a survival year. I called 17 was my survival year of my gym when I went completely hands off. I don't touch the gym anymore. Yet I have a 1-hour meeting once a month with my team, and that's it. So 17 was the survival year to truly empower them. 19 is the survival year of the Granite Games of we're merging two families, the CrossFit schedule with ours, which they don't match up very well. So we're going to make it work, and another day in paradise.
Well, I'm proud of you, man. I was super pumped when the games announced that. I think you guys are the premier competition outside of the games itself. I'm proud of you, and I'm really happy for your guys' success. I'm looking to see where this goes and progresses over the next couple of years. I have no doubt you'll continue to run it at the top of the game. So congratulations sincerely.
Thank you.
You bet. Well, let's wrap it up. Anybody that has questions, John, you're inside of the group. I'll also post up the links to your Facebook group as well as your intro call to where people can book it. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And I look forward to staying in touch with you, man.
Yeah. Thank you guys for listening. Jason, thanks for having me.
It was a pleasure. Take care.
See you, buddy.